All right, let's talk about something really fascinating today. Something that I think almost everyone has experienced, but maybe can't quite explain. We're diving into precognition, that strange, uncanny feeling that we've somehow seen a little piece of the future. The big question is any of it real?
I mean, it usually starts with something just like this, right? You have a dream, it's super vivid, you can't shake the feeling, and then later that day, or maybe the next week, some little detail from it actually happens. That déjà vu on steroids feeling is exactly where we're going to start.
And it's not just when we're asleep. It's that sudden gut feeling, you know? A premonition that's so strong it makes you pause. Or maybe you suddenly think of an old friend right before they call you. It's this puzzle that's been bugging humanity for, well, forever.
Okay, so these feelings actually have a name. Let's break down what precognition officially is and take a quick look at how this whole idea has traveled from the world of ancient oracles all the way into the labs of modern science.
So here's the textbook definition. Put simply, precognition is knowing something about the future that you couldn't have figured out with logic or by just looking at the evidence. We're not talking about a good guess here. We're talking about the claim of knowing something before it actually happens.
And what's really interesting is that it's not just one single thing. Researchers actually break it down. You've got your precognitive dreams, which we all know about. But then there's presentiment. That's where your body, like your heart rate, actually reacts before something happens. And then you get into even weirder territory like remote viewing, where your brain's showing signs it's preparing for something that hasn't even occurred yet.
You know, this is hardly a new idea. The ancient Greeks had their oracles, divination was huge in China. It was seen as the sacred divine gift. Fast forward to today, and that unified belief is totally gone. It's been replaced by this huge spectrum, from cultures that still interpret dreams to some really hardline scientific skepticism.
But stories and ancient beliefs can only get us so far. So what happens when you try to take this idea out of the realm of mystery and put it under a microscope in a laboratory? This is where the real debate begins.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's the absolute core of the whole controversy. For decades, scientists have been trying to design experiments to either prove it or kill the idea for good, and in the process, they've sparked some of the most heated arguments in all of modern psychology.
So the modern scientific story really kicks into high gear back in the 70s with these things called the Ganzfeld experiments. But the whole field was basically set on fire in 2011 by a psychologist named Daryl Bem. His study made claims that were so wild, so shocking, that it triggered this massive reinvestigation of all the evidence just a few years later.
Yeah, let's focus on that 2011 study for a second. The paper was called Feeling the Future. And when it got published in a really prestigious psychology journal, it sent absolute shockwaves through the entire scientific community. People lost their minds.
So, why the chaos? Well, because in his paper, Bem claimed that an incredible 9 out of 10 of his experiments showed statistically significant proof for precognition. To give you some context, that's a success rate that most scientists could only dream of achieving in their own work. It's almost too good to be true.
And that's exactly what made other scientists so suspicious. For a lot of them, a success rate that high wasn't proof. It was a giant red flag. They immediately started to dig into his methods, picking apart his statistics, asking, okay, what else could be going on here?
And this really gets us to the heart of the whole argument. On one side, you have Bem's results and other studies that seem to show a little something is there. But on the other side, the skeptics have some pretty powerful counterarguments, like the file drawer effect. That's the idea that scientists only publish their successful studies and quietly hide all the failures in a file drawer, which makes the evidence look way stronger than it actually is.
Okay, so let's just play a game for a moment. Let's just entertain the idea, what if it is real? How in the world could it possibly work? Well, this is where the theories get really weird and leave mainstream science far behind.
Two pretty radical theories have popped up. The first one borrows ideas from quantum mechanics, suggesting that maybe our whole concept of time as a straight line is just wrong. The other theory comes from parapsychology, and it proposes that our consciousness isn't just locked up inside our skulls, but it's part of some universal field that we can maybe tap into.
Now, the really crucial thing here is that both of these theories would completely turn our understanding of reality upside down. They basically suggest that the #1 rule we learn in science, that the cause always comes before the effect, might not be the whole story.
All right, let's pull back from quantum fields and get back down to Earth. What does any of this actually mean for us in our daily lives? Whether you think it's all nonsense or you're a true believer, what's the actual takeaway?
Well, some of our sources suggest that maybe we can just reframe the whole question. Instead of asking, can I see the future, maybe the more useful question is, can I get better at listening to my own intuition? Here's a pretty practical approach you could try. Think of it like a personal science experiment. First, just start paying closer attention to those really strong gut feelings. Then, and this is key, write them down. What was the feeling and what actually happened? Over time, you can go back and see if any real reliable patterns start to show up.
And, the potential benefits go even deeper. Just thinking about these ideas can make you more mindful, it can spark creativity, and it forces you to wrestle with some huge questions, like, do we have free will, or what even is time?
So ultimately, the real value in exploring all of this isn't necessarily about trying to prove you're psychic so you can predict the lottery numbers.
No, it's about what this entire debate tells us about the mysterious, powerful, and kind of strange connection between our own minds and the universe out there. It's about the incredible mysteries that are still waiting for us, right at the very edge of what we think we know.
One of our sources put it perfectly. It says that just by exploring this topic, we are forced to rethink our most basic, fundamental assumptions about how reality itself even works.
Which leaves us with one final, kind of haunting question to think about. If the future can be felt, even just a little bit, does that mean it's already written? Thanks for tuning in.